definitely a nominated position by our seniors who serve as cabinet members. And I wouldn't want to brag, but in terms of SRCC and in terms of the Economic Society, we do have a legacy of 40 plus years. So in terms of, and we have an annual economics journal. So as part of as part of being an editor in chief, and having that sort of access and liberty to curate your own journal that's extremely well read, that has contributions from people in the Indian economic sphere, from World Bank, all of these people collaborating with us to write that. And being an undergrad student in my second year, to have that sort of opportunity and to have that sort of recognition, I think that's definitely extremely cool, and it's definitely extremely respected in at least the DU circles.
I was very curious to know how students build out to apply what they study and also create networks using such leadership roles like you did. So walk us through the curriculum that university offers. What were the gaps you felt you wanted to fill, and how did the Economic Society sort of role come to be? And now you're also leading it, so it's really fantastic. So please share information about that.
Thank you so much. So I'll talk about the curriculum first in terms of being an economic honors student. I think it's definitely extremely vast, definitely covers a lot of concepts that are relevant. But the problem does remain that the way it's taught is extremely bookish, extremely like it'll feel like school, and it's more of knowing what is there in theory rather than encouraging thought. I think that is where just our classrooms are still classrooms the way it was in school. And so I think that is something that I expected would be more interesting, could be made more interesting, given that I'm someone who's extremely passionate about the subject. And I think that is what led me to the Economic Society as sort of a forum for students to actually engage in that discussion, to not just know conventional economic theory that's extremely relevant, but debate and discuss its relevance and its application. So, in terms of that sense, I think it was extremely important, and definitely has been a life changing sort of event in my college life to be a part of the society. Other things I'd say is that we do so many things that other societies don't get. And I would say the society is what is my extra college experience, remembering the fact that I've done college online. So, the sort of exposure of interacting with speakers, doing policy briefs and policy reports, all of these things make it relevant, give you that exposure that's beyond books, right? So that is definitely there. Another thing that I miss about my curriculum is that they don't teach how to do research, in terms of actually writing research papers, actually writing research articles, right? Something that economic students should be learning how to do, because that is how you understand the principles and the discipline better. Um, just having that sort of idea, not just question and answers like we did in school. And so that is also one sort of skill that I think I've learned because I had the pleasure of being in the Economic Society. And with the work, I think I was able to become the editor in chief. And again, a role that allows me to not only teach students, teach my juniors, teach and interact with school students to, guide them about how to go on writing, but encourages me to. I think in the last 2 years, the way I used to write, the propensity of writing research articles, doing research in an extremely critical, quantitative, qualitative manner, that has changed extremely. And I think all of that could be credited to the exposure that I've got through these societies.
So that's fascinating. So digging deeper into how economic societies run, and this question also comes from what we have. We have a student-led club called the Invisible Hand, where we discuss topics on economics, and it's pretty much student-led. They have their website, they have a budget, and they promote what they do. Uh, what would be a best structure to run an economic society club, and what maybe high school students who are listening in can take away as best ways to sort of program or do events or even manage teams in a club?
I think what is definitely important is to understand why you're starting off an economic society to begin with. if your ideas and your principles are based on information dissemination, right? Just sharing knowledge and sharing your enthusiasm about the subject. I think that ideal sort of helps you to do a lot of things. Take up endeavors. So if I was giving advice to a high school economic society, I would tell them to indulge in their own personal projects as well. Keep thinking on research projects, research ideas that they could pick up on, can absolutely deconstruct and reconstruct based on their ideas. And also encourage that sort of discussion, provide that platform where people could come and learn. Because what happens, I've personally seen is people want to learn, but they don't know where to go and who to reach out to so that they could be guided, what resources to use, how to even begin the first step, how to take that first step. So as an economic society, do both the things, do your own research, but also have activities and do activities that are extremely teaching oriented, and do that for the fun of actually teaching people and for sharing that passion.
Tell us more about, and also share information with listeners who are in university as to what they could do, go deeper into research, and use whatever resources they have to learn how to find the right question and sort of build out their thesis and do the sort of and demonstrate their findings on paper. So go ahead, tell us more.
Definitely. So I'd say the most important thing that I've learned is, right, that if there are people who are seeking for opportunities, then you will find opportunities available. You just have to be looking for it. And it's actually really funny that I got the internship on Council on Energy, Environment and Water, a place where I spent 6 months through cold emailing, through reaching out to think tanks in India, CPR, CCS, all of these working, doing great stuff, ORF, who are doing great stuff in the policy sphere. And one person at the council was gracious enough to respond. And what is important, I think, while you're reaching out, cold emailing does work, is you show yourself as a person who's extremely keen to learn. I do not have any background in technical sciences. I didn't understand anything from the climate sector as well. That's something I had absolutely no experience in. But demonstrating that interest and that passion to learn was important for me. I think that is what they saw. Another thing why I believe that it was so extremely life changing for me was because CW was an extremely quantitative research oriented internship where I had to do impact evaluation, which is an extremely statistical sort of discipline, right? And do that on an awareness campaign that they had conducted. And this is me applying during my first year, which means that I've had no professional training in statistics, no professional training in econometrics. And the interview was extremely funny because they asked me, do you know statistics? Not really, I've never learned it. Do you know anything about the climate? I'm interested, but I actually don't know anything about it. But it was that zeal and that passion to learn that I think they identified, and which is why I spent 6 months. My contract was renewed 3 times during that particular internship because I was doing such a great job that they were like, Ananya, this project is now your baby, you handle it. And that is the sort of learning curve I had there in terms of being open to learning, putting in that effort, and also people recognizing that if you're putting in the hard work, you will get the work. So that is definitely there. So in terms of understanding workplace ethics, I also think that CW is an absolutely great place to work because they didn't treat me as the youngest person who was working in their entire office, but I was someone who chaired their weekly meetings, who gave presentations during team meetings, and telling them what my work was. So I always got the credit and for the effort that I was putting in there. But that is with respect to my quantitative research skills, and that is what taught me how to even go about it, how to do things like literature review, how to ensure that you're looking at credible resources, how to read and go through 30-40 page journals, like it's something that you can do on a daily basis, right? All of these things, I think the more you do, the more you learn. And so that was an extremely important experience for me.